10%. Did these votes go to Santorum? Santorum didn't earn the 24% of the vote. So, yeah, it's the old-fashioned Chicago model is what they're bragging about what was done here. Here's another one that we're going to your Iowa calls for people to break down what they saw and what they think. Ron Paul comments on mysterious tweets sent from his campaign account. That's a diversion. Paul says on third-party finish, nothing to be ashamed of. Again, he's taking the high road. Continuing, Mittens Romney, meaningless Iowa caucuses now herald Romney's ascent to nomination. That's Aaron Dykes' view. Sarah Palin warns GOP, don't ignore Ron Paul after Iowa. That's a Aaron Dykes article breaking that down. Also, the big takeaway from Iowa, 75% of Republicans don't want Mitt Romney. Another report here, Al Gore encourages voters to dismiss Ron Paul as a silly candidate. You got Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Barack Obama, everybody attacking Ron Paul. What does that tell you? He's good, folks. They're scared. Continuing, Romney versus Paul. Experts agree. GOP contest now a two-horse race. New poll, Ron Paul retains strong second place in New Hampshire. And that's in Cook polls. It just goes on and on. I'll go to your calls from folks in Iowa in this first round of calls or so before Bev Harris joins us. After you hear a caller hang up, it's your chance, if you're in Iowa and witness something, to call in. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. And we'll get you up and on the air, of course. The websites are prisonplanet.tv, prisonplanet.com, and infowars.com. Let's go to Marcus in Iowa. Marcus, thanks for holding and calling in. What's your view on this?
In my district, I was in 16. Everyone gave a 5-minute speech about why they should vote for so-and-so. Ron Paul's delegate was the last one. When she got done speaking, the crowd went insane. Right then, I was like, oh, we got this. Don't have to worry. So we voted, and he got 23%. The next person in line got 16. There was another caucus across the hall. Ron Paul got 17%. Next one got 11. Ron won both. Rick Perry had people from Texas trying to sway votes. And they were walking around, and Rick Perry patches, stickers everywhere. So I called him out on Rick Perry doing TSA and about the forced inoculations. He said they were lies. So I pulled up on my phone, CNN, dailypoll.com also. And I said, well, do these people lie? He's like, well, Paul does. I said, what about CNN? He smiled and left.
Yeah, no, these are delusionally mentally ill people who they invest themselves in the candidate and will buy any lie they're told. Like these Obama supporters. I saw on YouTube, without even looking, over 100 video responses to my Obama signs martial law bill that's got about 400,000 views right now, because you can actually type in the headline into YouTube and see the actual number. And then you go to our page, it only says like 230,000, but you can actually see it with that trick by just entering it in and seeing it in the search engine. But that's a side issue. The point is, because I mentioned it's got that many views, people say, no, it has 230,000 or whatever. No, you put its headline into the YouTube search engine, and then you'll see the actual number or one of the latest updates. Just a trick for people to learn how to do this. But there was over 100 video responses that I saw, and it was mainly black folks, and most of them were saying, well, we don't think Alex Jones is bad, but he needs to leave Obama alone. So what? He went back on his word and signed the NDAA, but he's not going to use it on citizens and secretly arrest us. And again, it's this identity thing of, you know what, I support him, and so my power is tied up in him. No, he's a teleprompter reading devil that works for the New World Order, just like George W. Bush or Mittens Romney or Devil Gingrich or any of these people. These are puppets. And these people that, I mean, I've seen it. You can pull up the Perry press conference from 2007 where he said, my executive order says it's the law. All girls 12 years old or older report for your Gardasil shot. It's the law. And I had to go on air and say, it's a hoax, folks. There's no law. He just made it recommended to the health department. The schools are lying. And a year later, the legislature had to pass a law that just said there is no law. And you can find hundreds of articles. Just type in Rick Perry executive order, Gardasil. And I've been on radio shows, and they've called me a liar. And even when I say, okay, pull this up, they just laugh at me. You're right. Because when they run a hoax and get caught saying it's the law, you got to take it, then they don't want that brought up, that they're a bunch of liars. I mean, these are hardcore scum. I mean, they tell people on radio and TV and print it's the law when they know it's not. That's a criminal. That's a con artist. So you're saying, and that's what a lot of reports are saying and people on the ground, that almost everybody they talk to, and that's what CBS said, rock star treatment, that it looked like he was going to landslide win. And Darren McBreen, one of our reporters here at InfoWars Nightly News, he said, I think he might win by maybe a half point or something last night. I said this on TV before the results had come out, because it's too obvious if they steal it big from him because he's going to win with such a landslide. And I said off air to him, I said, no, I think he's going to come in third or fourth place. And I'm on record telling the crew that last night. I went on air and gave McBreen's prediction. I said, but they don't want to totally devastate him because then that's too obvious they stole it. Now, see, if it was a mega landslide, they would have had to let him win. But what's your gut, Marcus?
As far as if there was a fraud?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I guarantee it. Everyone I talk to, and I know quite a few people, are constant. You know, Ron Paul's away. Last night, I went with two of my family members and two of my friends, and then to the left of me, a couple came in. The guy's wearing a Ron Paul shirt. He sits down, and we start talking. He said some key things. I said, you're Alex Jones listener, aren't you? He said, yeah. He said, every day. I said, same here. So then
now, that's the same deal as Ron Paul said 4 years ago. Half of his support then and now is this radio show. And that's why he still comes on here, even though some of his staffers, most of his staffers are listeners, but there's like a 30% contingent that are kind of rhino-ish, and they, that little kids, literal kids, and they just sit around pontificating about how it needs to be more like Mitt Romney to win, and that's just not the case. Ron Paul knows where the audience is, and Ron Paul knows the government is criminal and the CIA deals drugs, and he says it. Ron Paul is just like me. He knows the truth. He's smart, period. I appreciate your call. Sad to hear that that's what you got there, Marcus. Let's hurry now through the other calls. Doug in Iowa, then Vincent, Alaric, and Jonathan and others. Go ahead, Doug. You're on the air.
Okay. I was the secretary in our precinct. One thing we had to do was have a lot more forms printed at the Radisson's desk for crossover voters. There were a lot of Democrats that came in and crossed over. We ran out of forms because you can register at the counter when you come in. Now, we were registering people for 3 different precincts there, so they didn't all come into the same precinct that I was going into at the next step. Now, our voting went Ron Paul 19, Romney 5, Santorum 5, Newt Gingrich 4, and 1 write-in. So he got about 60%. We photographed it to send it in to...
Yeah, my gut analysis from tracking it is that Ron Paul probably got 50%, and that's what the crowd show. It may even be above 50. So, of course, they had to then make it a statistical dead heat. And, of course, what's the chances of that? This is pure baloney. Okay, I didn't fall off a turnip truck yesterday. So what are people in Iowa saying? Are they buying this then?
Well, the areas that seem to come through the strongest for Santorum and Romney were the areas that Ron Paul did not have observers to photograph the vote.
Oh.
The smaller towns is where they did the best. And my son works for a military contractor here in Iowa, and he was a Ron Paul supporter, but the day before the straw poll, doggone, he switched his vote to Michelle Bachmann.
Oh, I know. That was the diatribe on talk radio, that she's the real conservative. No, ladies and gentlemen, launching more wars while we're bankrupt is not conservative. Supporting the secret arrest of citizens disappearing into spider holes is not conservative. It's downright authoritarian, flaming tyranny.
Got him back to supporting Ron Paul all through Christmas. And doggone, day before the caucus, which is the Santorum. I think that they tell their people in these places to who they're going to vote for.
No, did you hear that Republican analyst, a Fox News analyst that we played yesterday saying, don't worry, the party officials are going to take care of it. He will not win?
Yeah, well, there's an interesting piece on Crash, Are You Ready, with Santorum's reverse speech, where he's talking about the Iowa caucus people kind of in their pocket in his reverse speech.
Well, who knows if there's anything to that. Thank you so much. Let's talk to Vincent in Iowa. You're on the air, Vincent. Thanks for holding.
Well, I was a precinct captain in Precinct 4 in Council Bluffs, Potawatomi County, Iowa, and Precincts 1 through 5 all took first place for Ron Paul. Many of the precincts in the more urban area of Council Bluffs in town was taken for Ron Paul. He got first. Something we noticed is at the after party when we met up with many of our other precinct captains in the county is that it was mostly the rural areas in the county that Ron Paul probably got third or fourth place.
And there's two ways to look at that, and I think it's both. That's where it's easier to engage in fraud, as the last caller said, because there's not people there to watch it. There's easier to have payoffs there, as we know some evidence is starting to show what's going on. But more importantly, I've actually been in a hot tub in Hot Springs, Arkansas, with a bunch of old people and at the pool when I was up there a few months ago doing a story. And a bunch of them didn't know who Ron Paul was. So, yeah, people that only watch television, they wouldn't know who Ron Paul was.
Yes, I would agree with that. And the fact that we actually had boots on the ground here for the last year or 6 months here in, Council Bluffs. And we've been able to hit all the churches. We've been able to talk to people one-on-one. We've canvassed all over Council Bluffs. We phone called people in Council Bluffs. We did mailings to people all over in Council Bluffs. And, many of the precincts in Council Bluffs, we won for Ron. But once you got in the rural areas where we don't have boots on the ground and we didn't have volunteers out there, going door to door, making phone calls, talking to their neighbors, talking to their, fellow churchgoers.
I want to hear more about this, and I want to have a call to action in New Hampshire. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
If you don't want to be
Okay, we are back taking your phone calls, and we were talking to Vincent in Iowa. Look, we need to get even more people to New Hampshire to ensure that Ron Paul wins. And then people say, well, wait a minute, there's fraud. If there is enough of a landslide, they can't engage in that. And Ron Paul has been gaining momentum. And these attacks are going to wear off. They were able to stop his momentum and stop his growth at that point, from what I've basically seen. But now it's starting to wear off, and the momentum's kicking in again. And so much is going to happen financially in the next 6 months or so, validating everything Ron Paul has said. And we win by just having him in there. And we've got to reach out to people. They're calling mainly senior